When you say you feel guilty, do you mean do you think that's just imposter syndrome, or do you feel like there's no movie you could make that would justify their people's faith in you, or do you like what do
Well,
you think?
I gave like incentives, which is essentially like me giving like stuff, like a signed prop or whatever, or
Right.
something that's good. Um, but yeah, I don't, the guilt, it's both. I think it's both of those. It's two of those things. It's imposter
Yeah.
syndrome and like, do I really, is this like worth it? I don't know. Is this worth
Yeah,
it for other
I
people's? Yeah,
know. I get that. I get that completely because it's an art form that isn't just you painting on a canvas, and it isn't just you writing something down. That it is you're doing it with a bunch of people, and so it requires a bunch of people having faith in you,
yeah,
and that can be kind of daunting. And if you're not like a shithead or a sociopath, you're going to inevitably feel
yeah.
like I don't deserve this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then yeah, I mean, it was, I got the great crew together and I don't, there's a first shot in the movie, which is like this move through the aisles and it's like a whip
Yeah,
pan in the back.
beautiful shot.
Thanks. And so that was the first thing we shot and we were having trouble with it at the beginning. And I could see the crew being like, oh shit, like, what did we do? What did we sign up for?
Right.
Um, and then something happened to where I just was like, okay, and like just zoned in, and then we figured it out in like that moment. But like, uh, yeah, it's hard. It's like you have to have your crew be like as close as possible. I don't know. It was my first time like solo. I had like co-directed a music video a few years earlier, like with an older friend of mine that I was also in, like co-starring in. But this is the first time I like wrote something, directed it. So, but I had a lot of good people on it. But so wait,
How long?
so how far after you did you did undeclared, you did
Yeah,
what's called it was $1 million baby you did, right?
yeah, yeah.
So where in that time and then you did almost famous, which is
Actually,
I play
that was the first one.
right.
And I was like you because I started at 12, and I had been saying at that point for 3 years that I wanted to be a director. So when I was 9, I said that to my mom, and when I started at 12, my mom said to me, "You want to go to film school? Well, being on set's probably the best film school in
Yes,
the world."
exactly. That's also what my parents told me. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. It's funny. I played your part. We did a live table read called Feminist Live Read that my friend Chandler Levac puts on, who lives in
Oh,
Toronto.
right.
And
Of what?
we did Almost Famous, and I read your
Oh,
part, and
weird.
I read I read Vic, I think his name is the Led Zeppelin kid. So now
That's
it's all full circle. Um,
crazy.
um,
That's crazy.
so when did you direct your first short? Was that after Undeclared?
Yeah, it was like the first break on Undeclared. Like I went home. It was like a summer in between or something, and it's one of these things where like you want to do this, and I assume you had this too, where I was like a chronic daydreamer and over imaginer, and I was always just saw little. Sometimes it would be a full sequence, sometimes it would just be a color, sometimes it would be a vibe, but I was always walking around looking at everything as a movie and thinking of little things in my head. But then at a certain point you get to kind of shit or get off the pot time, right? and
Right.
and I didn't have it in me to put a whole feature script out. And
Yeah.
so one night I was listening to a fucking song. I listened to it on repeat, and then this fucking 10-page thing came out of me, and then I found a way to just kind of get her going. And I just like, yeah, I paid everyone out of my pocket and all this shit, and had a blast. And also, like you kind of figure out there's a moment when you get the chance to do the thing you've wanted to do, and it's a scary moment because you're like, oh shit, if I fuck this up, then maybe like I'm not meant to do this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. And I'm sure you have this also as an actor and a guy, you've been in a lot of comedic stuff. There's like it's narcissism, but it's also like it's an innate thing of like trying to be a storyteller, which is like when you're in a public situation and something bad happens or an awkward moment,
Yeah.
you go out, you're there, but then you go outside yourself and go, oh, this is going to be funny in something.
I'll be done just singing.